So, kamusta? Magandang hapon. Hopefully I've said that right. Super excited to be here today to be able to present on the CXO Summit. So let me just quickly bring up my screen so we can see. Fantastic. So like I said before, my name is Harry Tharmakuma. I'm the device sales lead for channel for Microsoft. Very excited to be here when we're talking about a topic that's very close to my heart when it talks about hybrid together with Windows 11 and DaaS, and how our partners and our customers are embracing this at breakneck speed, particularly throughout the pandemic, and how are we shaping up our businesses for the future. Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm going to talk to you about today. One of them will be about the critical business insights that we see. We talk about the insights of our business. We talk about the Microsoft proposition when it comes to device as a service. And we talk about how Windows 11 M365 gives you the best experience when we talk about device as a service. Critical business questions, which I hear from both our partners and customers. And it's a question I always ask them, which is, what is important to your business? Especially when we talk about this hyper-connected world, when we talk about coming through COVID. Priorities have changed. The priorities in terms of how do we work remotely? How and where do we work? And how do we make our people and our teams more connected through the right technology in order to achieve the organizational outcomes? Second to the point in there is, how has COVID impacted your business? It's changed their priorities and the way that we work and how we get work done. And the third point, which is a really important question, which I ask customers, is how do you see technology? Do you see it as an investment, or do you see it as a cost to the business? Because it really does shape how and where and when they're going to start investing in that technology. So if they see it as a cost, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to take on this journey where they have to upgrade infrastructure, upgrade onto apps and software. But if they see that as an investment, it's going to be a very easier sell, and they'll come along on that journey much quicker. So this is what we see from a lot of businesses around Southeast Asia, is price and cash is very key. So in order to get the work done, what do? You try to get it with the least possible cash that has to be expensed. So there's a lot of use of free mail or free apps or free software on devices to get that outcome. And that's quite tough, because sometimes the free email, the free apps don't exactly help you, give you and your teams the best experience on getting your work done. It could be pop-ups, it could be blockers, it could be reinstalling, it could be spammed constantly because you're giving your email addresses away. And then in the case of some businesses, they do crash. And so trying to get back online is so much more harder. And so when we look at how free email and some of that technology impacts our businesses, we're seeing it from across the board how employees and businesses are impacted. Close to 60%, 70%, and even 40% of SMBs that we survey tell us that they get impacted with downtime when they're using non-modern devices and not the best experience apps. So not only is it our view, but we talk about what our external macroeconomic factors that tell us as well. So when we look about the World Economic Forum, we hear them say the same thing. And throughout COVID, we hear about agility and how can businesses and people pivot with technology to get those outcomes. So it's not just us saying it and our partners saying it, we're hearing it from a macroeconomic perspective, from a global perspective. So what does that mean? When we talk about, and I'm going to talk about DaaS in a minute here, we talk about what are the different success factors that help you sell device as a service. We look at competitiveness, we talk about the agility, we talk about the cost versus investment, we looked at scalability and digitization, and we look at what that brings, and we talk about the device with the right software, with the right apps to allow you to scale. And that also happens with device as a service through giving it through a subscription base as opposed to cashing out all your money in a CapEx perspective. So when we talk about the hybrid era of work, and I'm sure there's people here that could probably raise their hands or put into the chat box, but those, and I'm sure there's people there who used Windows 90 from 1985 when it first came out. I personally started on DOS 3.0, and it still astounds me when I talk to young enthusiasts when it comes to technology, is that they ever use the command word prompt, right? So if they ever gone into that and know what it does, and using the old floppy disk, and how technology has really changed. And if you look at how it's scaled, why has Windows 11 helping us breathe into and get connected to this digital fabric that we talk about? And it's because it's giving you that experience of being hyper connected through the technology and through the experience of what it does. So we talk about Windows 11, and it's a really important component when we talk about hybrid work. So there's a couple of success factors. And when we talk about the challenges on which it addresses, we talk about remote management. We're all working from home. I'm working from home. We talk about cognitive overload. How many meetings are we in? And how does that talk about screen time and how we are physically drained and fatigued in going from meeting to meeting, because that's the only way that we can communicate with each other. We talk about communication barriers. How do we breathe and talk within our teams? Where do we switch on and switch off now? How it's all blurring, especially when we work from home. What's our flexibility? We talk about the fact that from the moment you switch on, from waking up in the morning for those meetings, all the way down to the afternoon and probably late night, you're constantly on. And it's very hard to work with the devices and with the experience and the apps that you have that don't allow you to do that freely. And the number one concern that's happening from a lot of CIOs into most businesses now is all about security. Working from home, how secure? Because it's no longer about working within the security of the four walls of your business. It's about working out there in the community, from cafes, from shops, from parks, from houses, from the kitchen bench to the sofa. So how is it designed when we talk about Windows 11 for hybrid work? We talk about the powerful UX experience that comes with all the productivity tools. We talk about the collaboration that happens, with all the tools and apps that we have, the consistent app performance that we do, and we talk about zero trust. We talk about that trust that comes in the OS to help you, help your businesses, and help the community from the constant attack of ransomware and the ever-increasing hacks that are happening whilst we go through COVID and working from home. So we partner with a lot of our great silicon partners, from AMD to Intel to Qualcomm. We also partner with our great partners here. We've also got HP on the call here today, and with all our brands as well. I won't start on this point because I know about how we upgrade and with all the devices. But if you're thinking about, okay, if I want to upgrade to Windows 11, how do I do that? How do I get there? Well, there's a few ways you can do it. If you're having a managed device right now, and you're using Windows Autopilot and your business is using a zero-touch deployment, that's the best and easiest way where it can happen overnight for you. If you're doing it managed, and you can using a remote desktop, to IT professionals who will be coming in there and being able to upgrade your Windows 10 Pro device up into a Windows 11 device. And if you're doing it the unmanaged way, well, you can just use your Windows Update icon in there and click that, and that will bring you in to a Windows experience. And that's how I did it as well, through the help of Microsoft, obviously. And I'm able to be using Windows 11. And it's such a beautiful experience on how it helps you with hybrid, from the snap screens to the movement and fluid of movement between apps and integration with all the tools that I use to get my work done. So we talk about M365 business standards, we talk about the Office component, and we talk about apps. We talk about how do they give you, from PowerPoint to Word to Excel, Outlook, and not using that free mail that you have. And these are all when I talk about tools and how does that get work? How does that work get done? How does that help me? We talk about business essentials that gives you with Teams. We talk about how it gives you that license capability to move from Mac and PC, and also about that exclusively updates that you get. So you're always on, allowing you to be productive whenever you want in this hyper-connected world. We talk about, sorry, one more slide. We talk about business standards to give you connectivity, to give you value, to make sure that you're in control, and to get help whenever you need. And we talk about security, which is a really important point, how devices with your data is backed up using OneDrive. Now, why is that important? So many businesses in which I've spoken to through fire and floods, or damaged devices, are you still using the old hard drive, the external hard drive, where the important business documents are sitting or residing, especially about those filing cabinets that sit in your office. how often do you go to those filing cabinets to get that data? And what would happen? And there's an amazing stat that gets turned around that 35% of small businesses would go under if they lost their documents living in a filing cabinet. But with OneDrive and storing into the cloud, with all the security features around it, you're able to access your document and your information instantly. And it's such an important feature as businesses from SMB transform their business into a hybrid workplace. So when I look at DaaS, and what is DaaS? It's a device as a service. We look at from the components from our Windows component, our Office component, and then all wrapped up into a whole hybrid way of purchasing and consuming your technology. So what is happening in the marketplace? And we hear and we see it consistently that 70% of our workforce will be millennials, Generation Z or Z, depending who you are, by 2025. That's a big shift of the way that they use their technology to the way that gets done at work. 6x of employees are outdated and are more likely to quit if they're using old technology and are banging their heads saying, I don't have the right tools and I don't have the right technology for me to be able to work remotely and hybridly. 90% of millennials say that the company's tech sophistication would actually impact their decision whether they choose to work there or not. Especially when they're coming from universities, whether they're coming from schools, which have modern devices with the right licenses, with the right OS, with the right technology, coming into businesses but still using Windows 7, that old OS, because of legacy reasons or the impact to change is too much and business owners don't want to do it, or they lose talent by not being able to retain the right ones. And an important one that 77% of employees say they're more productive working remotely. There's an interesting fact that's coming out and that we hear from within Microsoft that there's about the same amount of numbers of people that do want to return to work, not to work, but to have a deep, meaningful relationship with not only their managers and their bosses, but their colleagues. Not to get the work done because they're happy doing it at home or doing it at work or doing it at a park bench or doing it wherever they need to. But the human component is still there and needed, but the way that we work is different. So how do we win? And I touched on that point before about being able to attract and retain the right talent, maximize our productivity, be more flexible and predictable with your pricing and change, and to when we talk about simplified IT management. So the question I ask our partners and our customers is, are you ready and are you prepared to support the new generation in the workplace of today or tomorrow? So when I break down those DaaS components, we talk about hardware, we talk about a modern device, we talk about the right support, 24-hour, 7 days a week support, always available to you, and you're able to also get the right services. And those services that are provided from the retail seller channel right now, that are able to give you all the right components to get you up. So as I talk about the modern agile business, we talk about that predictable monthly fee. You're not using your cash up front all the time. You're being able to get that at a predictable cash flow price that helps you with all the right services and all the right tools. So as I talked about the right device, the modern billing components, the modern services, and the device lifecycle management, which means when you come to end of term, somebody's going to be there to take your device and give you back a new one, and you keep going. And so that you're not basically end of the line and saying, I don't have a device, what do I do now? So there's a little bit of a repeat of what I said in here because I'm conscious of time, but I want to land on one point here is, what are our customers saying? Is that 83% of customers say the device costs have decreased after enrolling in a device as a service program. 60% say IT is less burdened by owning their own hardware and software and services. And 66% of them have said DaaS has been very profoundly impactful to their business in allowing them to be transformational, moving them to the cloud and giving them a better experience. So I'm going to stop there. I can go on for hours when I talk about devices as a service and how we move to a hyper-connected business. But I want to stop there and give back the time, and especially to my partners here from HP to be able to continue the great conversation. Thank you very much.
It's the DaaS concept. This is JX from HP Services. So I'd like to add on to what Harry has shared and also what HP DaaS is all about. So in terms of the landscape that we are in now, a lot of the sharings and surveys has been done by HP with our partners. We do see a big strain in terms of the IT resources, in terms of managing the endpoint. And a lot of the spending is actually increasing due to the COVID, as well as the change in terms of how modern IT will be achieved in the enterprise today. The complexity is also ever increasing, with a lot of the challenge for enterprise today is really looking at how to support a hybrid workplace or work style. There's a key balance in having users being traditionally in the office, now a lot moving into work from home. And actually the pandemic is really driving the direction or shift into what we call work from anywhere once the situation improves. So gone are the days where we will have the entire corporate world working in the offices. And a lot of the newer generations especially are welcoming the ideas of working remotely from everywhere they can, in terms of cafes, during their travel in airports, or even in lounges. And this is really providing a key challenge and complexity for all of the enterprise IT today. And lastly, I think ever increasing is the growth in terms of the security attacks and threats that's happening around the world. It's actually happening in the milliseconds every now and then, even till now. And the key in terms of enterprise is how do they actually ensure their security is up to mark to be able to defend them from such malicious attacks. And of course, the risk in terms of the threats posed will be really in terms of the millions in the event that the attack is successful. And we do see that happening in the past ransomwares, where they actually have a lot of high ransom for Bitcoins in the attacks. So what do we have here in terms of the situation driven by the COVID that's happening? So more than 75% of the Fortune 500 CEOs are actually saying that because of the pandemic, they are actually being forced to move to a digital transformation for their corporate. And a lot of these IT decision makers are really looking at outsourcing as a mode to be able to go to a digital transformation faster. And due to the lack of manpower, due to COVID, as well as a lot of the changes in the way that the users are being supported, it seems that outsourcing is really a better option for a lot of the internal IT, rather than to hire and train the team to be able to better support their users. Of course, lastly, with the consumer experience creeping into all the enterprise now, a lot of the user expectations based on what they have in the consumer world is really shifting a lot of the decision makers to look at as a service model as well, as compared to having a lot of the large purchases done upfront. The other benefit of this is really freeing up a lot of the cash flow that the enterprise can have now to be able to tie them through this pandemic. So they are really looking at as a service model to tie them through with this solution, so that they can actually preserve a lot of this in terms of emergency. So what is HP Device as a Service? Very similar to what Harry has shared, we are actually a comprehensive solution which gives you the equipment, endpoint devices, be it PC, laptops, desktops. And we also have a range of services that we actually can couple with the devices to support you through the life cycle of the device. And what's unique to HP is we do have an analytics platform that helps you monitor your device fleet to keep them in the best of health, monitoring their usage as well as the posture. And of course, all these can be packaged into a per seat per month or per device per month subscription fee for you to consume across the different models. Right, so in summary, I've covered all of this. And through that, we actually have financing as well internally that we can provide, or we can also work with partners in the local context in Philippines for financing to meet your budget needs. Right. Of course, not unfamiliar to the audience here. HP is the pure hardware company, and we do have the range of endpoint. For some of the audience here, you might not know, we do have things like thin client as well. So if you are going on a VDI infrastructure adoption, we do have the relevant thin clients to support you. And recently, I think HP also acquired a software company, Teradigi, we all know. It's actually a remote endpoint solution that we will integrate to our portfolio of devices. So besides the traditional machines that you see in terms of PC and notebooks, we also have RPOS. So in terms of the retail space, we also have RPOS machines running on Windows that you can actually select for your mix and match of a DAS solution. Adding on to this, of course, the accessories is the other thing that you can consider. So we do offer accessories to be bundled with the endpoint devices, and still you will be using a per seat per month or per device per month to secure or purchase your equipment. And this is really picking up as we notice in the market. Due to the work from home scenarios, a lot of the accessories are being taken up to make the work style better at home for users to be able to fully be productive. We do see the uptake in terms of like bigger screens or dual screens, as well as docking stations to allow the users to be more productive. Right, next I want to run through what we call a life cycle in terms of endpoint or PC. So in HP, we starts from stage 1 to 6, what we term as cradle to grave. So at stage 1, this is where we can help enterprise like yourself to design a blueprint, looking at the requirements that you currently have, including moving your internal IT to a modern provisioning, autopilot. So we do have design workshops that we can work with your team to get all the proper requirements and come up with a step-by-step guide on how you can transform your current static image loading mechanism to a zero-touch autopilot deployment for your end users. At stage 2, this is where we can have all the configuration done for your endpoint in our factory. So our factory is equipped with all the capabilities to be able to do your imaging, including device provisioning packages to be able to create them, install, or even doing updates as per any updates from Microsoft. We can constantly update the packages for you whenever you order new PCs. We also have the additional services like your BIOS logo settings, or specific BIOS settings that you want to configure, and asset tagging to secure your machines or with the proper labeling based on your label codes or barcodes. We can actually print them in the factory for you to be stick onto the machines, or you can actually deliver to us and we will actually configure all that in the factory before we ship out the devices. Right, moving on to the next step, stage 3, that's where deployment comes in. So in the Philippines, we do have a nationwide capabilities to be able to deliver to all the offices in Philippines across the 3 major regions. And of course, we also have the capability to deliver to homes now, given the requirements from enterprise having a lot of the users working from home. And we can have on-site setup for your employees working from home as well. So helping them with any networking capabilities they require in terms of joining their network, getting their internet or network access. We can also set up certain settings for them to connect to their peripherals at the homes, like connecting to their printers so that they can be productive. And moving on to stage 4, this is where our analytics platform come into play. We actually look at your entire device fleet to see the health and constantly look at ways to monitor and optimize the devices so that they are performing up to your users' requirements when they are working at home. And all they need to have is actually an internet connection. So with that, we are able to gather all the statistics, do some predictive analysis, and help to proactively manage the devices. And I'll share that more in my next slides. Moving on to stage 5, we do have the maintenance phase. This is where we'll do all the necessary support in terms of your warranty, as well as we have additional coverage in the event of accidental damages. So we do have that for all your devices as well, so that in case of accidental breaking of the device, in terms of the LCDs or damages through water spillage, we can cover that even at the homes of your employees. And of course, lastly, at the last stage, stage 6, that's where we start to look at end of the device term. So maybe you have come to a 3rd year or 4th year of your device and you want to look at getting new devices. We can also help you dispose the devices in a very secure manner, where we will have people sent down to the locations required to help you data sanitize, doing all the degaussing and all the work necessary to ensure that your data is not leaked before we collect back the devices, so that you can restart the whole cycle from stage 1 to look at the new device again through the design phase and purchasing of your new devices. Right? So going deeper into our analytics platform, this is what we have from HP, and we term it Proactive Insights. It's actually analytics technology looking at all the health monitors in terms of the entire device. So besides the hardware components, we also look at the BIOS level, moving up to the drivers, the Windows OS, as well as the application layers. All these are being actually captured in our platform so that we get a full entire view of your device health that gives you the capability to make sure that these devices are really up to speed and minimize all the downtime that users might encounter. All right, so just showing some screenshots or dashboard of what we can gather. So we can look at the overall CPU and memory performance of your entire fleet. And it's actually historical data that we capture daily to be able to plot such graphs so that you can analyze in terms of any changes or patterns in the performance of your fleet. We do look at two key components as well, namely the battery, as well as your hard disk. So with our platform, through the mass of big data that we gathered, we actually are able to machine learning, get some predictive analysis of any upcoming failures, particularly in your battery and hard disk. So in the event that our platform shows a red sign in terms of like replacement for hard disk or battery, we will be able to do a one-to-one exchange of such component for your equipment that is affected with no questions asked. So even before the component has failed, we will do a one-to-one swap, be it a battery or a hard disk. So a lot of the preparation work and prevention of downtime can be achieved to ensure your users have a very seamless user experience. They can be alerted before any hard disk failure to do their necessary backup, prep for our engineers to be down, and we just do a one-to-one swap and they can move on to continue their work. So this really helps in getting a lot of employee satisfaction, I would say, and you minimize any loss of productivity, which is really lengthened now in today's climate because with employees working from home, if in the event there's a hard disk failure, productivity loss could range from easily 1 week to 2 weeks, right? To actually get a new hard disk shipped down, and also for them to recover any lost data they might have in the event that they have not done any backup, right? So from HP, we also have many different offerings in terms of how we can do HP DaaS for you. We can actually tailor-make a particular subscription for you based on the models you choose and the services you require. It's all free to choose. You can pick and choose any service that you like to bundle together. And in terms of the additional capabilities we have is we are able to offer flexing up and down as well. So meaning to say, you might have started off with 500 devices for 3 years. And in the event that there could be some growth in your plans or reduction, and you like to commit to a smaller number, we can actually allow like a 5% flexing up and down. So you can always decrease the numbers by 5%, maybe from 500 to 490, 480, and then increase it maybe to 520. So all this can be done while maintaining the same terms and condition and pricing based on what you have signed up for since day one. And all this can be bundled into a one contract for you. And the terms can be flexible in terms of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or even up to 5 years. Right. So lastly, I think just want to cover the benefits. So of course, with HP DaaS, the key is you are really looking at us as your service provider for all your endpoint requirements. It will really reduce your time and effort, which translate to money in terms of your manpower, internal IT. And a lot of this can be used for your better revenue generating projects that you might embark on, be on cloud adoption, analytics, or security. And of course, this is proven and driven by our AI platform that we will help to monitor your entire fleet for you. Right, with HP DaaS, of course, the cash flow is actually free up for your case. And of course, this is really useful in current situation where you can actually be able to better manage your spending and be prepared for the emergency requirements that might turn up due to how the pandemic will unfold. We also offer the flexible payment terms and the capability to flex up and down. So this is really something that will help you in terms of current situation with the different options that you can look at to best suit your requirements. Right? I did cover a bit on the employee experience and how we can actually help on that. So with the AI powering our platform, we can monitor every single component or performance of the endpoint. So that really helps to minimize the downtime and also best match the specs for your users' needs. So this really helps them being productive even while they're at homes. And we also have a campaign engine in our platform, same, Proactive Insights, that we can actually use it to have a quick reach out to your employees, even working at home, to be able to get a sensing of how they are performing while they're at home and how are they keeping up with the usage of their machines. So all this can be done through our online platform, and it's all actually bundled together for HP DaaS as a simple per seat per month. And of course, lastly, security is something that is really key in today's climate. To really look at how we can prevent a lot of these security attacks. We do also have that platform to monitor the security posture of your endpoint, looking at firewall being turned on, making sure your antivirus is running and most up to date. And of course, also ensuring things like encryption being turned on to encrypt your endpoint devices to prevent any data loss. With that, I think I want to wrap this up and leave it back to the floor for any questions that I can take. Thank you, everyone.